Welcome to Music with Mrs. Avery. Hello everyone. We are going to continue talking about our music notes today. But before we get started, you are going to need a couple items for this lesson. Those items are a blank piece of paper and a pencil. So go ahead and pause this video so that you can go get those two items. Now that you have a blank piece of paper and a pencil in front of you, we will get started. We are going to look at the relationship between our notes, and we're going to organize all of that information in a brace map. And we are going to look at the whole part relationships. So we will start with one note, and then we are going to break down that note into equal parts and form a brace map. So what I'd like for you to do is take your blank piece of paper, and I'd like for you to hold it long ways from side to side. And in the top middle, let's add a title called Music Notes. Make sure you do not write that title too big. You're going to need as much space on your paper as you can leave so that you have enough room to write your brace map. Great. So remember, we're looking at whole to part relationship. So let's start with our whole note. So on your piece of paper, all the way to the left in the center, you are going to draw a whole note. Make sure it's nice and neat, not too big, and you should still have all of your paper left. Make sure you put it all the way on the edge of that left side. Excellent, and let's write in the word whole note, because that vocabulary is very important. Whole note. How many beats does a whole note get? Do you remember? If you do, yell it out at me. That's right, 4 beats. So we'll put a 4 underneath. Fantastic. So now we're going to draw our first brace. So now we're going to take our whole note and we're going to break it into equal parts. So we're going to think about taking that whole note and dividing it into 2 equal notes. So if we took a whole note and we broke it down into equal notes, remember, a whole note gets 4 beats. What type of note would we get? A half note. Correct. So we would have one half note here and another half note here. So what's half of 4? 2, and we know that a half note gets 2 beats. So let's write in our vocabulary, half note and 2 beats for this half note and this half note. Since it's a vocabulary, it's always great if we can write it more than one time. It'll stick in our brain better. So, the whole note breaks down into 2 half notes. And we can check this because 2 plus 2 equals 4. So, let's look at this top half note and let's add another brace. So if we take this half note and we break it down into equal parts, what will we get? What type of note would we get? Well, we see a half note equals 2 beats. And if we take 2 and we divide it in half, we get 1. Is there a note that equals 1 beat? Yes, our quarter note. So this half note here would break down into 2 quarter notes. So we have quarter note, and remember, you should be writing this on your piece of paper in front of you. And we have quarter note. And each of them get 1 beat. Wow! So we can check this, right? The same way we check this. 1 plus 1 equals 2. Well, what about this half note? Would this half note break down into anything? Right. This half note would also break down into 2 quarter notes. So let's write in our vocabulary. If at any time I am moving too fast, you can pause the video to catch up. So let's look. We know that these 2 quarter notes equal this half note. So 1 plus 1 equals 2. And then these 2 quarter notes equal that half note. 1 plus 1 is 2. But now let's look at the whole thing. All 4 of these quarter notes equal a whole note, because 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4. So you are starting to see the relationship between the notes and how they break down into equal parts. Now, let's start with just this top quarter note, because I think we could break it down one more time, so we're going to need a brace at that quarter note. So, this one's going to be tricky, because we looked at a version of this note a few lessons ago. So if we take a quarter note and we break it down into equal parts, what would we get? Well, I remember that we learned about beamed eighth notes, right? Remember those beamed eighth notes? Right? And together, both of these sounds made one beat. So, if together they made one beat, how many would each individually be? Half of 1, right? That would equal 1 half. So we do have a note that equals half of a beat. And it looks like this. So you will see that this note has a head that's colored in, a stem, and then it's got this really cool piece here. This is called a flag. And this is an eighth note. So we learned about the beamed eighth notes. Okay? So a beamed eighth note is just 2 of these notes put together. And we remove the flags and we add a beam. So a quarter note would break down into 2 eighth notes. Go ahead and take a a moment to write all that in. Remember, you can always pause the video if you need a little extra time. So we can check this. 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1 whole. Sort of like a pizza. If we had a whole pizza and I was going to eat half and you were going to eat half, well, you would eat this half, I would eat this half, and then we would eat 1 whole pizza. So 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1. So now, what about this quarter note, and this quarter note? Do you see the pattern we have going on here? Right, so this quarter note would break down into 2 8 notes as well. And so would this quarter note, and so would this quarter note. So go ahead and take a moment and add in your remaining braces. Remember, 2 8 notes per brace. And then remember, it's important to keep writing in that vocabulary. So we're going to write in 8 note, and then we'll write in 1/2 because it gets half a beat. And we will continue to do this for each 8 note. And make sure you are doing your best work the entire time you are writing all of this information in. And again, remember, if you need a little extra time, you can pause the video. Go ahead and get all of that vocabulary written in. So, we start with our whole note, which gets 4 beats. And that whole note breaks down into 2 half notes. Then if we just look at 1 half note, it breaks down into 2 quarter notes. And if we look at 1 quarter note, we see that it breaks down into 2 8 notes. Notice how nice and neat the columns look in a brace map. Make sure that your columns are nice and neat, okay? So if we look at this whole map together, we can see that 2 half notes equal a whole note, 4 quarter notes equal a whole note, and how many 8 notes equal a whole note? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 notes equal a whole note. For your assignment in Google Classroom, you are going to take a picture of your completed music notes brace map and upload it as an attachment for me to review. If you cannot upload it as an attachment, you can always email me a picture of your completed brace map. Please make sure to submit your neatest work. If you had difficulties copying the brace map during our video lesson, you can click on the brace map image that's attached to this assignment to help you organize your information in your brace map. You have worked very hard and you did a great job organizing our notes and showing the whole to part relationship. Thanks for joining me.